Hello, Christie Arkovich here, Tampa, Florida student loan attorney, and I am extremely pleased to talk about the IDR waiver announcement yesterday by the Department of Ed. First of all, don't be dismayed by the title, IDR waiver. Doesn't really sound all that flashy, but it has a lot of meat, and I believe it's going to fix a lot of our clients' problems that we've seen over the past few years. A lot of our clients. I think that there's a ton of our clients out there that have not gotten credit for various time periods that they maybe will get credit now under this new waiver. And what that's going to mean is that their student loans will be completely done with, and they will also be tax-free. So I'd like to go through some of the specifics of what they found that caused them to enact this, just real quick, what they're going to do, and then what you have to do to go ahead and get this relief under this program. So stay tuned. It'll just be a 5-10 minute video or so. You're always welcome to contact our office to set up a one-on-one consultation if you have any specific issues or specific things you'd like to address. Some of this will be automatic. Some of it will have to be instigated by a complaint through the FSA Ombudsman Office. But I want to congratulate the Department of Ed for doing what I believe is a fantastic job of trying to remedy past injustices for folks who have been basically unable to pay their student loans and have had an incredible amount of interest and costs and things added to those loans, making them basically unpayable. And so I want to congratulate the Department of Ed for fixing what we attorneys have identified as key areas. And I think that they did a good job. So what is this? Essentially, they're going to credit long-term forbearance. That is huge because it's been a beef for many years that many of the major servicers have used forbearance as the cure for all ills. And so if someone has called, a borrower has called and said, hey, I'm having a hard time making my payment, what can I do? Instead of steering that person towards an income-driven plan, because they recognize that that's a long-term problem that the borrower is having, their income is just not enough to make student loan payments as well as maintain a minimum standard of living. It's not a temporary thing. They didn't just have a car accident, but it's a longer-term thing. That borrower should have been put on an income-driven plan. And the Department of Ed anticipated that they would, in fact, be put on that plan, but they never would. Instead, they were put in long-term forbearance. And it sounds great. You get off the phone. Basically, the servicer has said, oh, yeah, you can have zero payment. You don't need to send us anything. We'll do it right now. You're good to go. But the problem is that it was never explained to that borrower that if they did that, the interest would be capitalized. And there's no credit towards long-term forgiveness. So what would happen is you take a $20,000 balance, it becomes 40 or 50 in no time. Most of our clients don't have a $20,000 balance. They have, 50 to 75,000. And then if you add more to that by capitalizing the interest or by a default, which adds 25% to the balance, all of a sudden you have a 6-figure bill and it's still accruing interest at an average of 6.8%. That quickly becomes an unpayable debt because not all our clients are doctors and lawyers. Not that doctors and lawyers necessarily make big bucks all the time, but many of them haven't even been able to find jobs that could even pay a $30,000 debt, let alone a $100,000 or $150,000 debt. So that forbearance credit is going to be huge. What it also does is it will allow prior payments before consolidation to now count. Again, huge. We have a lot of clients who were basically led to consolidate to a point where they gave up certain years that they've accumulated towards income-driven plans before that. We, of course, would look at that when we did a consolidation, but folks that did their own consolidation, they didn't even know to look at that. And they didn't recognize that that was a problem. And so they basically had to restart their count all over again. That was a big problem with public service for a long time. So importantly, prior payments before a past consolidation will now count. If you do a consolidation between now and January 1st, which we recommend for certain reasons I'll get into in this video, you're going to want to know that those payments prior to that consolidation will count. Deferment, besides in-school deferment, also will count. Fantastic. Now, they did say prior to 2013. I'm not entirely sure why that is, why that year was put in there. So that's something we're going to have to do a little research further as to why. Now, they say that several thousand will receive forgiveness. I actually believe it's going to be several million. I've heard online a couple of other colleagues, Travis over at Student Loan Planner, he estimated it could be between 100 and 200 billion. I don't disagree. And I also think that's a great site if you want to go to that. They have some good material on there. Now, the Education Secretary Cardano, he announced, it was really funny. He used the phrase that student loans were never meant to be a life sentence. And just as an aside, I wanted to mention, we use that all the time in our seminars, that student loans are not meant to be a life sentence. But we actually stole that phrase from a Kansas City judge, a bankruptcy judge, I believe, that had discharged federal student loans, basically saying that, that debtor was essentially, sentenced to a life imprisonment due to their federal student loan balance that they had. And that was a significant reason why they were allowed discharge. So it's interesting. I just thought turn of phrase was kind of interesting. It's not meant to be a life sentence. But in enacting this provision, they found that more than 13% of those with direct loans were in long-term forbearance. And that would be from the time period that the first IBR existed, or income-driven plan called IBR, in July of 2009, through the COVID forbearance, which started here in March of 2020. So during that time frame, from the first IBR until the mass forbearances now, 13% of those were in a long-term forbearance, and they shouldn't have been. What the Department of Ed had anticipated is that you would have a 12-month consecutive forbearance and cumulative no more than 36 months. So they're sort of redoing history to allow for credit now if someone exceeded that. So what's happening is automatic forbearance for anyone who has been in a forbearance consecutively more than 12 months. And we have probably a ton of clients that this will qualify for. Also, if you've used more than 3 years over time, spread out here and there, cumulative more than 3 years, they're going to automatically give you credit for time periods while on forbearance. Traditionally and historically, forbearances would never be given credit towards IDR unless it was during COVID. COVID was a special exception. Now they're allowing another special exception for anyone who is in a long-term forbearance. So perfect. Interestingly, they found that widespread forbearance was being used. What we had used in some of our seminars and such was the Inspector General's report back in February of 2019. They had done a report where they audited all of the federal servicers, and I think there were about a dozen or so at the time. And they found that 61% of the time, whatever they were doing was wrong. And they basically stated there was wide non-compliance with federal loan servicing requirements regarding forbearances, deferments, calculations under IDRs, interest rates, due diligence, and consumer protection. So this is sort of a furthering of that Inspector General's audit that they did of federal loan servicers. And this is actual things that are going to happen to result in forgiveness. And so I'm very pleased with that. And so this will end the forbearance steering. Interestingly, this also came up in the Attorney General settlement at Navient in January. They basically agreed that they would give a small refund for folks who had been steered into forbearance as opposed to income-driven plans. I was always dismayed on that small refund because it was only, I think, $200 and some. I don't remember the exact amount. It is on the 39 Attorneys General Navient settlement video. But $200, that's nothing compared to the harm that these programs have created to just keep people in forbearance forever. And so this will fix that, because this is actually going to give people credit, actual write-offs of their loans. And so what are we going to look at? So any month where a payment was made will count towards IDR, even if consolidated. Now, importantly, there was no limitation. They could have limited this to July of 2009 and forward, because that was the date that the first IDR, income-driven plan program, was passed by Congress. I don't see that limitation here. Now, I haven't read through everything, but I've read through 99% of what's available. I don't see that limitation. That could be huge, because we have some clients who have made payments prior to 2009 that are not getting credit towards either forgiveness under public service or IDR. So maybe they're going to get credit now. It seems to be the case for IDRs that they will get credit, but under the public service waiver, they're still not supposed to get credit. So there's a little bit of a contradiction there. I don't know why that contradiction exists. I don't know if there'll be something further announced that might clarify that contradiction as to whether or not payments made before July of 2009 will actually count. Under this, they should. Now, what they're going to do is they're going to basically create some new software. They're going to change the dashboard on studentaid.gov to show tracking. Importantly, one of the things that they found was servicers did poor tracking and some servicers did no tracking at all. In public service, there's a certification form that you can submit, basically saying, hey, I work for a qualified employer. Here's my full-time employment certification by my employer. Give me credit. And the Department of Ed or FedLoan, actually, who's the public service servicer, would send a letter back saying, okay, your loans qualify. You have a qualified employer. You've accrued 2 years towards the 10-year forgiveness and so forth. And they did that count, and it was very, very nice. There's nothing that exists like that for the regular income-driven plans. And so you're trucking along towards your 20 and 25-year goal. There's not one single client that's come to me that's known how far along they are. We can guess, but there's no way to really tell. Now we can go back into the National Student Loan Database and try to find out, but it's very difficult to do so. So the dashboard is going to add a new tracking mechanism that will allow people to see how close they're getting. That's fantastic. It may take a little while. Don't think that's going to happen tomorrow. That could take a few months to be put into place, but they're going to update that. They're going to update what they call the antiquated National Student Loan Database System. It is kind of antiquated in the fact that when we have clients, since as attorneys, we're no longer allowed to use the program. One of the things the Department of Ed did a few months back to try to stop scams and things like that was they limited the use of FSA username and passwords to only those borrowers directly who are using them. That's fine. I get that. They were also going to create a portal for attorney use for those of us who want to help our clients do something and do it for them. The portal has never been created. There's a form that we're trying to get through the Department of Ed now, a bunch of law firms and consumer protection agencies, so that we can be allowed to use the database when necessary, but that even hasn't been passed. So our hands have been tied a little bit in doing things for our clients. There is some workarounds, and there's some ways that we are able to assist our clients in doing things, and there is some things that we can still do for our clients. But hopefully their fixing of the NSLDS system will not only change the giant text file that we have our clients download and send to us so we know exactly how to identify what federal loans they have and all the things that have happened with their loans. Maybe we'll be able to access a portion of the system that we're not currently allowed to access. So that would be very, very helpful. But when is this going to happen? Okay. So the loan cancellations have stated that they're going to start happening this fall. It's going to take several months. Could be up to a year. We don't know. Some of them will happen automatically, like I mentioned, for the 12 months and the 36 months cumulative. Some will happen by a complaint to the FSA Ombudsman Office. We do wish to do complaints for anyone who we think is not going to be automatically covered, or anyone who we have questions, like that July 2009 date, joint spousal consolidation loans. We don't know if they are going to be affected at all by this. That's an area that has been a widespread concern of ours. For someone who has been, consolidating their loan right after they graduated. This is a very common occurrence. Husband and wife would consolidate their loan. The loan consolidation was usually a commercially held FFEL loan, a federal family education loan. Once you're in that program, which has been dismantled, by the way, there's no way back out of that program. So no one can get public service credit. No one can be on an income-driven plan. That's the newer plan that's allowed by direct loans. No one can get credit through these waiver programs. So that's a problem that we've tried to fix through litigation. And now maybe the Ombudsman Complaint Office will be an additional avenue that we may be able to get a remedy for our clients. They're going to do more auditing of forbearance use, and I think that's good. They're also going to restore the FSA Office of Enforcement. They haven't had that for many, many years, as far as I know. That would be similar to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. That CFPB has a student loan division. This FSA Enforcement Office would be within the Department of Ed, and it will have some kind of power to effectuate cancellations with due cause, I would imagine. So they're going to restore that office. We're going to know more once they do that as to what their limitations might be and what they're allowed to do. The other interesting thing is refunds. Okay, If you've made more payments than necessary, once all these forbearances are counted and all this deferment time is counted, they have indicated they're going to initiate a refund. We have seen refunds in the past, and this could be a much larger sum because we've had folks who have been in forbearance for years and years and years, and they would have counted, past their 20 and 25 years had they been counted. So that could be huge. Even larger, though, is no taxable event. Because the forgiveness will occur before the end of 2025, that's December 31 of 2025, the Americans Rescue Act will allow for full tax waivers on any forgiveness of federal or private student loans. Huge, because this cancellation will occur before then. There is further information available on the studentaid.gov/announcements-events/IDR-account-adjustment. I'm going to go ahead and put that in a link on the bottom of the video here. So what you need to do to make sure that you get the relief for this, again, some will be automatic. If you've been in long-term forbearance, it's going to be looked at automatically. If for some reason we think or you think that there's a concern that it will not be looked at, we need to file an FSA ombudsman complaint ASAP so that we make sure that these other issues are addressed. Key in that is these two things: joint spousal consolidation loans and loan payments that were made before July of 2009. Hopefully we'll get some clarification on that very, very soon. But what you need to do is, if you have a commercially held FFEL loan, you need to consolidate before January 1 of 2023 to be able to get credit for any payments that were made prior. Now, even though you consolidate, you're going to get credit for those payments again. No matter what kind of payment you made, it could have been under the extended program, the graduated program, could have been just some payment of an amount that wasn't. We've got a lot of clients who pay $100 a month, $25 a month. They pay something, they pay what they can afford to pay. Technically, that should fit because it's a payment. They say a payment of any kind. So if you've been making $25 payments or 100 payments, I think that those are going to count, even though they aren't properly counted under an income-driven plan. There are some issues where we might want to actually consolidate a loan now in order to get credit for the longer period of payments made on one of the loans. This is excellent for people who bifurcated their education. Let's say you had a BA, you've made a number of payments for a number of years for that. You went back to school, you got a master's, you haven't made that many payments on that. If we consolidate those, similarly to the public service loan payment waiver that was passed in October, the same thing should occur here. We're going to get credit for the longest time period for all the loans if you consolidate them now. So that's something that we might want to talk about. With consolidation, there are some tips. I want you to always make sure you exclude Parent Plus loans. If you don't know why, reach out to us. We'll explain why. I think that's about it. But know that this is a very, very valuable fix for a problem that we've seen that has grown and that has existed for many, many years. So it's no small thing. Be sure to reach out to us if you'd like to do a one-on-one consultation. Otherwise, we've got some free videos on our YouTube channel. Please subscribe. The only way we can continue to do these is if you hit subscribe and share with your friends. Make sure we get the word out and hit the like button. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.